probably not that far in Germany yet. We have fused data. That means for the traditional broadcasters, you can add online viewing and television together in one system. So this has started to run. But the great downside is we don't really have online viewing from non-commercial broadcasters. And since a lot of viewing time comes from non-television broadcasters, for example from YouTube, the data we collect aren't really that relevant to the market. And that again, that was one reason why we tried to convince YouTube to share the system, because it would add a lot of relevance for that data system. And well, I hope next year we're going to see a different situation.
Next year or this year?
At the latest.
In France, Mediametrie is measuring TV and online also for almost 20 years now. And we've been launching a 4-screen TV measurement last year in 2016. This system relies on panels, of course, but also on big data, return path data. And we are also leveraging a partnership that we have with Google, and we co-finance a single source measurement on the TV set and on the online screens. And so the fusion of all these data through a hybrid approach allows us to provide this 4-screen measurement. But I think beyond, there are definitely some technical challenge in this 4-screen environment. But I think there are more specifically some questions surrounding what do we want to measure and what definition do we want to use in this new space. Do we want to use the metrics of the online environment? Do we want to use the metrics of the TV environment?
So if I can just pick up a question, and I'll come back to Adam in a moment, with Robert and perhaps yourself, Julien, first. If I'm an advertiser, and I'm a television advertiser, so I'm with broadcasters, but obviously my commercials can be seen on all sorts of screens, from all sorts of platforms, can I get a single measurement of my audiences yet?
So yes, we have an offer that's called XCR, which is the merger of digital ad ratings with our TV panel. And we already provide some cross-screen campaign report for TV, for advertisers that advertise on TV and on the online screens.
And Robert, please.
Well, sadly, our roadmap doesn't include campaign measurement yet. So you could do it when you talk about the content. So where are viewers and in what kind of content environment? But you can't do it for a precise ad campaign yet.
Okay, and if I can add on, I know it was in some news feeds yesterday and today, in my own country, in the UK, where Barb, which is our TV JIC, has been working in the same direction, has just put back its latest bit of development by 6, 7 months into the autumn of this year, and that's not for commercials either. But let's widen it now and bring Adam in, because clearly the issue, and I'm specifically going to talk about Europe, if I may, and then widen it geographically, is here are these long-established, if I may say, highly rated and highly reputed industry bodies, joint industry bodies in quite a number of European countries, which are used to measuring audiovisual audiences, but obviously they're not measuring all of them. And even when they cover the internet, it's for the broadcasters. And so from the point of view of the newer parties in this environment, do they see ways in which they would want to be aligned, cooperate, whatever words you want to use, Adam?
Sure. So I'll start by asking a quick question of the audience. How many people in this audience know what a JIC is, what a Joint Industry Committee is? Okay, okay, half or more.
That's pretty good.
It's surprising.
Sorry, pretty good for an internet conference.
And an internet conference, right. So I didn't either about, I'd say, 18 months ago, or 18 to 24 months ago. And I sit in California in our YouTube offices, and meanwhile, our colleagues over here in Europe were struggling to answer these same kind of questions around cross-media, not only cross-screen. Everybody has a 4-screen audience measurement system now, but actually not just bridging the screen gap, but the distribution gap as well of TV versus online platforms. These conversations were happening both with AGF and Robert, and also with Mediametrie for quite some time. And so I'd say, to answer your question, the last couple of years have been a learning experience for us, and I think we approach it in a way where we're learning and listening when we come out here. These markets, Germany and France, are the two, from what I've seen in Europe, two of the most forward-thinking markets in terms of this cross-media, non-only TV-originated content planning and then measurement. And so I think it's been an educational experience, and we now have projects underway in both markets to make this a reality.
Okay, thank you. Of course, one fact of life, which is one that we've all got used to as the world has developed in the last 10, 15 years, is that whereas back in the days when there was only television, airtime, trading of audiovisual took place using the data the JIC provided. And that was there was one currency for all of it. And obviously we've now moved, without necessarily saying this is the day it started, into a world where there are two currencies, and even once the hybrid has been developed, there will be two currencies, unless various things happen. But that in itself raises, and again, sorry, Robert particularly, from a broadcaster point of view, do you envisage, that's almost before our organizations like YouTube might become involved, do you envisage the hybrid data that EGTA will produce will be traded data?
Yes and no.
Thank you.
Yeah. They have to be trading data. I mean, if they don't, if they aren't used in trading, it's too expensive to be produced just for fun. So they have and they will be used for trading, but maybe they will not be the only type of data source used for trading. Trading happens in a lot of different environments. I mean, we just saw some impressive contributions about location-based advertising, and those nationwide panel-based hybrid measurements will not be sufficient for location-based advertising and so on. So there will be a lot of trading models, advertising models, where those data are completely useless. But as long as there is mass marketing, if you're a Procter & Gamble and everybody buys your detergents or your, whatever, then you need nationwide databases, and that's where JIC data come in.
No, what I want to say is that yes, in this hybrid environment, we are using big data and we're using potentially data that has not been produced directly by the JIC, but I think that it gives all the more importance to the panel data. And at some point, we need a third party. The role of a JIC is to be an independent third party that will build the currency used by advertisers, agencies, and by the different trading bodies. So this panel data is one of the aspects that will guarantee somehow a form of neutrality of the currency.
Yeah, so I'd say yes. There's an ambition to get there, and I think that this is something that we're all quite aligned on, this topic of audience measurement and video audience measurement. So what we do at Google and YouTube is we go back to what the advertisers want, what the agencies need, and what our YouTube content partners that are often TV broadcasters like RTL, what they need as well, and that's to get credit when content is distributed and when advertisements are sold against that content on YouTube. And so with that lens, the reason that we're involved in this project and what brought us out to Europe with this attitude of participating with JICs in various countries is, if we look at the advertiser side, I know Unilever, for example, has a large presence at ICOM this year. Their CMO, Keith Weed, is very outspoken this year on the need for a single view of the consumer, that media is planned out of one budget, but right now the planning data and the planning tools are siloed. And so that's our first call to action, is to solve this problem of multiple planning sets of data, multiple sets of tools. But if we continue down that path, we know that everybody wants to measure what they've planned, and we believe we need to find a way to enable that together as well.
Thank you. Pick up a word, a familiar word in the way that Adam just used, silos, because we're not unfamiliar with the environment in which each individual medium, that is to say not just television or digital, but the press, the radio, cinema, outdoor and so on, has had its own siloed trading currency, separate measurement for the most part. But obviously there are now arguably two silos in the audiovisual sphere, and therefore the question is bringing them together. But I was pleased about what Robert said about wanting, if we can, to use them as a trading currency, because certainly from my personal point of view, when I worked for ITV, the largest of the commercial broadcasters in the UK, if back N years ago, when we started down this road, someone had said to me, and I would then have to argue this with my management, we're going to spend millions of pounds, just our own part of the money, millions of pounds on this development. Oh, by the way, it won't be used for trading. It'll just be used for planning and evaluation. I'd be thinking, well, why am I spending this much money and this much effort if it's not going to be used for trading? But then, coming back to what might be the objective, and I'm still going to make this distinction, in an ideal world, in the semi-ideal world, of bringing together, if we can, the different audiovisual content and advertising providers within a measurement, is there a view that what we want to end up with is a single currency for planning and trading, for planning and evaluation, or actually get as far as a single trading currency?
I think if you want to answer this question, it's very difficult, because today the way that TV and online advertising is bought and sold are very different ways. So building a single trading currency, a tool for a single trading currency, if the models that are used to buy and sell. So we will have to wait before we get the clear vision on that, before we can actually build the tools to build a single currency.
So I'll answer it I come from a tech and a product background, and I guess the way I would approach it is, we need to start making progress together. So there's this vision of what does a perfect future look like, and I don't think there's much misalignment there. So for example, if you look at the total watch time of YouTube and the total watch time of television in just the UK or market, there was a report that came out recently based on third-party data, the Enders report, I believe it is, in the UK, that would put YouTube as the size of video on YouTube, is the size between Channel 4 and ITV. It's a huge amount of video watch time in a very engaged model where there's intent to watch, in-stream advertisements, audio visibility are very high. And then meanwhile, if you look at digital video, and you size the pie of digital video, so that is video that's watched on an app, a website, of that, TV originated content is like 5 to 10% of video that's consumed on an app, right? So you have this medium that is video, and you have these different distribution models, and right now they are planned and bought and measured in silos. So everybody, I think, is incentivized to bring that together. Where do you start? I think what's been decided in Germany is to start with planning, because it enables us to start to make progress together. And in some of our meetings in Germany, it's the dynamic is so much further ahead than in some other markets, because at least everybody is around the table and it's already been decided that we're in this together and that we are working towards a set of milestones to launch. And if that can be done successfully, we can add a next set of milestones, and there's a prioritization, and that roadmap can be built out together. And so I think that's, from a product tech background, it's let's start making progress, and launching together is the most important.
I agree completely. I think the planning vision is easier to fulfill because it's you can make it with a panel, and traditional joint industry committees are panel-based, and a panel can tell you where are the viewers and how do the viewers between YouTube and RTL overlap. And this is important data. Now, when it comes to campaign verification, it gets difficult because there are other sources. I mean, there are no other sources for the question how many viewers of YouTube and RTL overlap. That would be the mission of a JIC to establish, and there are no competing data. When it comes to how many ad views do I have, my own company, ad server, would maybe give me a different answer than what the JIC will produce, and that could be a challenge. So the post-campaign issue is more difficult to solve, and maybe for the two questions we will have two different data sets or different data models, because we cannot afford the ad calls from our own servers to differ from the verification model of a joint industry committee.
Can I add one thing to that? Just so, and one quick thing I'll add is what's crazy to me is we're talking about the order of planning versus measurement, or planning versus measurement in trading. What's crazy to me is the projects in countries that say are cross-media that only measure TV-originated content or TV broadcaster content. Because then in that case, what you're measuring is TV plus 5 to 10% of digital if you leave out all of the digital platforms and other websites. And so there are some countries that have actually prioritized measuring ads, campaign measurement, only on a very small slice of digital that's owned by TV broadcasters. And to me, I think that's driven by a small set of business interests, but does not meet that advertiser agency call for, and in many cases, a broadcaster call as well for a cross-media reporting and trading solution.
Yes, I think you mentioned one important thing among the things that you said is the watch time. And in these discussions that we're having around how can we make TV and online video converge, I think the notion of time spent is critical. Video is a three-dimensional object. There's X, Y, and there's time. So if we want to measure the exposure to this object, somehow we will have to measure time. There are discussions and there are people that disagree on how we should measure these time variables. In France, 2-3 years ago, we defined what we called an online video GRP to allow to build a cross-screen video report. And this online video GRP included the time spent, the percentage of time spent, because we believed that someone that sees 10% of an ad cannot be compared to someone that sees 80% of an ad. And just to finish, in these discussions, we've heard many times people arguing about efficiency, effectiveness of advertising. And we acknowledge that there are, each platform and each media has different effectiveness. TF1 can argue that they're more effective than this other channel. And they all are making studies to demonstrate that. And in the online world, YouTube can demonstrate their effectiveness over another player. But I think it's another topic. Measuring campaign reports building an audience currency. It's not about building the measurement of the effectiveness. That's another topic. The first step is measuring the exposure.
I have a couple more questions, but I wouldn't mind giving the audience a chance. So rather than my questions, and if you say who you are and who you represent, please. Yeah.